Welcome, folks. Welcome to the next video. This is the third part of the endocrine system. Thank you so much for watching, and we will continue from where we left off from the last one. Okay, so the last one. So, continue on today. We're going to look at different glands, and we're going to talk about different part of the glands around your body, and then what kind of hormone do they release, and also um, and what does those hormone actually do as well. Okay, this is the huge part. This is a very key part. Aside from those two diagrams that I showed you earlier from the anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary, that's kind of overview of it, and this one is more in detail, and this is pretty much the bulk of the endocrine chapter that you can actually see on your test. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, let's get to it. So, um, so let's talk about the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland, for thyroid. Okay, let's see. For thyroid gland, thyroid release couple of things. One, one you need to know is called three T. I'm sorry, 3 4 and T4 and T3. Okay, it's T3 and T4. Okay, T4 has 4 iodine. So let's guess what T3 has. How many iodine does it has? That's right.
Yeah, boy.
It has 3 iodine. Yes, so that's right. So T4 has 4, T3 has 3. Which one does your body actually use? Your body actually use T3. Okay, your cell actually use T3. T4 is for transport. Think of there's one extra 4, one extra T. You actually will transporting those throughout your whole body. Okay, once you get to your cell, it loses iodine, so that you could actually go into the cell into T3, use those. Okay, everything will base on negative feedback. Most of your system, except those I mentioned for the positive feedback. What do you need to know? You need to know this little pathway. You need to know hypothalamus release TRH again, and with RH, and then tells your anterior pituitary. Your anterior pituitary then release TSH. TSH then Lily tell your thyroid gland. Again, this is an hormone, and this is an hormone. This is an hormone. Okay, these are the glands. Hypothalamus is the gland. Anterior pituitary is the gland. Is the boss. TRH, TSH. Those are orders or hormones. Thyroid gland is another gland. Okay, it releases a hormone called T3 and T4. Okay, so that's something you should know. And what does it do? Again, key terms remember is metabolism. Metabolism. It does everything in your body. It tells your body what to do. Cold, warm, makes you want to pee more, pee less, poop less, eat more, eat less. Makes your body have a big, huge belly or become really thin, little like skeletal, like little pinky. So it does a lot of things. Control your mood. So it does a lot of things. Okay, and where is it? It right on your neck, right here on your neck. Okay, you could feel your Adam's apple. This is the Adam's apple called the thyroid cartilage, which is this guy right here. This is your thyroid cartilage. Is right below that, onto your left and right, below right there. Okay, on your test, I will point a little arrow to that thing. I'm going to ask you what gland is that. Okay, what gland is that? You're going to say it's a thyroid gland. Another hormone that people often forget that your thyroid gland produces is called the calcitonin. Okay, calcitonin. Under thyroid gland, you have T3, T4, and then the next one you want to write down is calcitonin. What is calcitonin? Calcitonin is calcium into the bone. Calcitonin, calcium into the bone. So what does it mean? It takes calcium from your blood. So let's say if you look at the calcium, if you have high level of calcium, if you have tons of calcium, I'm just gonna write Ca, you have tons of calcium. Okay, you have tons of it inside your blood. Okay, what does it do? It's going to take some of those calcium and it's going to store them into your bone. So calcium into the bone. Remember what kind of mechanism this is from your first video? Take based on the level of calcium, your body will put those release a hormone based on the level of calcium. That's called humorally. Remember humorally. So based on the number of something in your blood, it's a substance in your blood, your body will release hormone based on that. And this is one of them. It's called calcitonin, putting those calcium into your bone. Okay, into the bone. That's right. If you flip your thyroid gland to the back, if you look in the back of your thyroid gland in the back of your thyroid, you have these little four dots. Okay, you have these four dots right here. These little four dots called parathyroid. Okay, parathyroid gland. Your PTH, your parathyroid gland release parathyroid hormone. So again, this is the gland, this is the boss. This boss releasing the PTH, parathyroid hormone. What does it do? This is the opposite of calcitonin. Calcitonin put calcium into your bone. This one taking calcium out of your bone, put into your blood. If your blood calcium level is low, okay, if you're low calcium level, then PTH will be released, and then taking some of the calcium from your bone, osteoclast, breaking down some of your bone, and then put those calcium into your blood. Okay, put calcium into your blood. So to remember the function, just know the calcitonin, what calcitonin is. You just remember the mnemonic I just gave you, calcium into the bone. If you remember that for calcitonin, PTH is the opposite. If that calcium into the bone, this one calcium out of the bone into the blood. Okay, so breaking down bone to get to those to put into the blood. Okay. So the big one, this is the big one to remember. This is called the adrenal gland. This is adrenal gland is on top of your kidney. You could see right here. It's the little gland sitting on top of your kidney. This more like little triangle on top of your kidney. This is a little fat pad that actually is sitting on top of your kidney. Okay, big huge thing to remember for your test. Okay, big huge thing to remember for your test. Really remember adrenal gland. There are two parts, two sections of your adrenal gland. One is called the cortex. Okay, cortex is just on the outside. Think of cortex. Think of a court, like you actually playing in a basketball court. You on the outside, and medulla. Medulla is in the middle. M for medulla. M for middle. So medulla is right smack in the middle of this right here, and then cortex is the around it. Okay, so remember that because you need to know which hormone come from the cortex and which come from the medulla. The one from the cortex is called the mineral cortical mineral corticoid. Okay, corticoid. That's from the cortex, and glucocorticoid. Okay, come also from the cortex as well. The reason you see this, you seeing right here is corti. Corti is come from the word cortex. Okay, this is how you could remember it. Corti, cortex. Coid is show that it's a steroid. Okay, it's a type of steroid. Corticoid is from the cortex that release steroid. One is the mineral, and the other one is glucose, which is glucose base. And we're gonna look at both of them. The mineral is aldosterone. Aldosterone, what does it do? It actually retain your urine. It actually keep your urine by promoting sodium reabsorption. When you reabsorb sodium, water will follow sodium. The more water you keep, the more sodium you keep as well. Okay, so this is works in your kidney, telling your kidney to save more sodium, basically save more water, and you will uh, your blood pressure will increase. Okay, So this is how the system works. If you have a low blood pressure, your kidney will tell renin. Angiotensin system, we'll talk about that later on. And then your adrenal cortex will release aldosterone. Your aldosterone then will actually tell your body to retain water to keep sodium. Water follows sodium, so you have more water inside your blood vessel, and then the blood pressure then goes up. Okay, so big, huge thing to remember. What is the function? The function is actually the same as ADH. If you remember ADH, anti-diuretics hormone, who secrete ADH? Where's ADH come from? ADH come from posterior pituitary. Yay! So posterior pituitary secrete ADH. What does it do? Anti-peeing hormone. So it does exactly the same thing. It absorbs sodium. When it absorbs sodium, it absorbs water. It actually stops you from peeing. So anti-peeing hormone, aldosterone, does exactly the same thing. It will increase your blood pressure, retain water. So, so keep that in mind. So for glucocorticoid, gluco gluco is referring to glucose, right? Gluco is glucose, so therefore you have cortisol. Okay, a big one to remember is cortisol. And again, cortisol has to do with stress, long-term stress, to help you deal with stress. Uh, a lot of time, people who when they're stressed out, they're using up cortisol all the time. You actually keep using up cortisol, and if you don't have enough cortisol, then you actually have will have certain symptoms as well. Okay, certain symptoms you could tell whether you're just being so stressed out so for so long. It will actually start showing in your body as well. Okay, so cortisol. Think of stress. Okay, deal with stress and also deal with blood sugar as well. Okay, so you have high blood sugar because when you stress, you keep eating more, then your blood sugar goes up, and then the cortisol will actually break down some of those. If you need to run from the tigers, uh, then they will use those sugar up. But then your body will tell you to store more of it as well because you don't know, you never know there's going to be tigers chasing you or not. But in the real world today, we don't have the tigers. You don't use that energy. When you don't use it, the more stress you have, the more you're going to pack on those pounds. Okay, pack on those belly. Okay, and there's a small amount of androgen and estrogen made inside your uh, adrenal cortex as well. Very small, but mainly those are produced in your testes and ovaries. But a little bit of them actually goes in your adrenal cortex. Okay? So adrenal medulla, the only one that you should know is in the middle. So medulla is in the middle, right here in the middle. So it's norepi and epinephrine and norepinephrine. So these are what we call a sympathetic division, meaning that it's fight or flight. You might have heard that from your psychology class, fight or flight. So when you see a tiger, you want to run. That's the hormone you're going to be using norepi and epi. Okay, so so that's done with the adrenal gland. You have two sections: the cortex and the medulla. The cortex produce two main hormone, aldosterone and cortisol, also androgen sex hormone as well. But the key one is the cortisol and aldosterone. Those are one that you should know for your test. And then your medulla produces epi and norepi. That's for fight or flight. Okay. Your pancreas, right here is your pancreas. Your pancreas produces a hormone called insulin from the beta cells, and then alpha cells is called glucagon. Okay, pancreas does a couple of things. It does endocrine and exocrine. We're going to talk about exocrine later on during the digestive system, but for the endocrine system, it actually produces these two hormones. Okay, insulin, just like your blood. Okay, Insulin, what does it do? It actually breaks down sugar. You have glucose. You have tons of glucose in your blood. Okay, breaking down glucose, putting glucose. I'll just put glue. You have glucose everywhere. You just eat a big, huge piece of uh, cold stone, a big, huge ice cream. You have tons of glucose everywhere, so your body will secrete insulin. Your insulin will break the glucose and put that glucose into the cell, into the liver or your muscle. Okay, insulin is into the cell, into the liver, into the muscle. Okay, into the cell. So breaking glucose and put them into the cell. Glucagon by your alpha cell, glucagon, it's gone from your cell. So you have low glucose system. You actually have low glucose level. You're gonna put those. You're gonna break down the glycogen and put it in as glucose and put it back from your cell, gone from the cell, going into your blood. Okay. So when do you think in your insulin is the highest? Your insulin is highest when you actually just eat food. You eat lots of food. That's your insulin level going really high. Your glucose level is high. Insulin level is high. Breaking down those glucose and putting them away. When is your glucagon is the highest? When you just wake up, when you haven't eaten for a long amount of time, when you're starving, right? You haven't eaten anything. I haven't eaten anything. I feel so hungry. Your glucose level is low. Your body releases glucagon to break down some of those glucose, and then put it into your blood instead. Okay. So again, insulin decrease your blood glucose because they put it into the cell, right? Into the cell, store as glucose or glycogen or amino acid. Okay, and glucagon again, breaking it from your cell and cause your liver to break down those glycogen and put it into your blood. Okay, gone from the cells and put it into your blood. That's glucagon. A big, huge one to know is called the pineal gland. Pineal gland is right here in the back of your brain, back of your middle of your brain. Release a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin. Your melatonin help with circadian rhythms, help you sleep. Okay, help you sleep. And a lot of time people don't notice that you only need a little bit of melatonin. You don't need 5 milligram or even 10 milligram. You only need one or less, zero point 0.5 milligram or 1 milligram of melatonin to help you sleep. High level of melatonin, we actually use that for cancer when you actually have like chronic autoimmune infections or cancer, that you need a high level of melatonin to break down some of those cancer cells. Okay, slow down those cancer cells. So we only preserve high level of melatonin for that. Some people think that the more you take melatonin, it will help you go sleep faster, but it does not. You need very little amount of melatonin to sleep. Okay, and you get that. Most people actually get this by going out in the sun. If you actually going out in the sun, you get melatonin, get a little vitamin D. You will be able to actually help you sleep. But unfortunately, here in Arizona, so darn hot outside, you don't want to even go out, step out. So most people kind of stay in. Your melatonin is low. So I would highly recommend you could supplement that by putting some of the melatonin into your drinks. Works really well with kids. If you want the kid to fall asleep really quickly, you could just kind of spike their drinks a little bit. Just they don't know what hits them. It takes about an hour or so, and they'll just kind of fall asleep very quickly. Okay, works extremely well. So make sure you check that out. Okay. So next slide. Okay, so thymus. Thymus is right here by your heart. Okay, a little fat pad by your heart. Okay, uh, and thymus actually produce a hormone called thymosin. Thymosin actually help raise T cells. Okay, help raise your immune system, help raise something called T cell. We're going to talk about that a little bit more once we get to immune system. But just know for now that thymosin from thymus. If I ask you, uh, thymus produce what hormone, or thymosin produced from where? thymosin produced from thymus. And what does it do? It actually help raise your T cells, help programs your T cell. Okay, T lymphocyte, T cells. Testes produce testosterone and also estrogen as well, but mainly it's testosterone that actually help with puberty, will help with male produce sperm production. Okay, help with male sperm production, and also secondary characteristic, which ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, and help with women uh, ovulation and also uterine wall production as well. Okay, so now that's conclude the endocrine chapter, but we're gonna talk a little bit about diseases. There are a few diseases that actually go along with the endocrine. As I mentioned before, when things doesn't work out too well, when things kind of go in the opposite way, a wrong way, when your hormone become too much or too little, you guys could actually end up with these diseases. Okay, so the first one is called gigantism. Gigantism means you are big, you are huge. As you can see, is huge right here. This condition is there's two conditions I want you to underline. One is called gigantism. Gigantism means just like this guy right here. This is called gigantism. Um, this is happen in the childhood. So gigantism happen in the childhood. So usually, what associate to this is when you have a tumor in your brain, you have a benign tumor, which is not really cancer causing, it's just benign. But what it does is press on your pituitary gland and cause your pituitary gland to secrete a lot of growth hormone. When your pituitary gland secrete a lot of growth hormone, makes your body grow really, really tall. Okay, really, really tall, extremely tall. So no gigantism cause your body to go boom, pretty much to become a giant. Okay, gigantism, giant, huge, and this happened in the childhood. There's also a condition where you actually happen in the adulthood called acromegaly. Okay, acromegaly is another form of gigantism, but this only happened in the adulthood. So A for acromegaly, A for adulthood, gigantism, childhood. Okay, so something you should know for your test. You will see this on your test. So gigantism, childhood, acromegaly, adulthood. For the adulthood, you're gonna see these folks will have a prominent jaw, big hands, big feet. Okay, big jaw, big hand, big feet. Okay, it's a rare condition. All of these are rare conditions. One of our former president actually had this. Abraham Lincoln had acromegaly. As you can see, he actually have beard. The reason he grew beard is because his jaw is so big, he didn't want to actually catch any attention, so he actually have beard instead. Huge hand, huge feet. He's kind of fairly tall as well. Okay, so acromegaly. Another one, the opposite, you have too little growth hormone, is called the dwarfism. Dwarfism is when you have very little growth hormone, and this is during pregnancy or even before you're born. Okay, they are very very small. There are many type of dwarfism, many type. The most common one is called achondroplasia. Achondroplasia, that's the most common one. This is where they just kind of short in their torso. Their arms and legs are like everyone else, but their torso are much smaller. Okay, much smaller. So that's called acromegaly. I'm sorry, that's called achondroplasia. Achondroplasia. The one that you see here is called the primordial dwarfism. Okay, primordial dwarfism is pretty much just like you have a shrink gun from glue, from a Despicable Me glue, just kind of shoot at someone with a shrink gun, and then person just kind of everything just small, very very small. Like this guy right here, you could see he was the smallest man, the shortest man in the world, only 21 inches tall. 21 inches, that's less than 2 feet. Uh, 2 feet. Basically, you just stick up 2 feet, ugh, just like little doll, tiny little doll. Okay, and this girl who's still alive, she's 24 inches tall, which is 2 feet, exactly 2 feet tall. Very small, as you can see, tiny. You might have seen her in uh, some of the movies. She's an actress. So that's the smallest person in the world. Okay, smallest person in the world. Another disease, this is called goiter. Goiter is a disease that actually caused by low 3T, T, T3, T4. Okay, T3, T4. So low T3, T3, T4, you have goiter. We usually don't see goiter here in the country because this is usually caused by lack of iodine. But we put iodine in our salt, and we have salt in just about everything. Every food that you eat, there's actually salt in them. So therefore, you have iodine everywhere. So therefore, you won't get the goiter, even though you have hypothyroidism or you have hyperthyroidism. And if you, even though you have thyroid condition, you may not see goiter at all. Okay, too much T3, T4, we call that grave disease. Grave disease is when you have too much. You're gonna seeing everything like from anxiety, rapid heartbeats, your elevated metabolic rate, metabolism goes up. Think of it like you burn up a lot of food. You burn up a lot of things in your body. This is an autoimmune disease. That means your immune system start attacking your thyroid and start killing off your thyroid. So you actually causing your thyroid to produce more T3, T4. So you're gonna have everything is gonna raise, like your heart rate gonna goes up, your blood pressure gonna go up. You're gonna eat more, you're gonna poop more, but you're gonna go really thin because you're burning off everything. You're burning out everything in your body. You're burning out all the stuff in your body. The key term to remember is the protruding eyeball. Okay, the protruding eyeball. This is very classic for uh, hyperthyroidism or grave disease. The eyeballs are protruding out. Okay, protruding out. This is caused by a muscle. It's actually caused by the muscle around your eyes. You have these proteins that actually start attacking those muscle, cause it to become loose, and then your eyeball kind of popping up. Okay. So for your test, know the symptoms. Okay, know the symptoms of grave disease. That these are the symptoms, and is caused by hypersecretion, too much of T3, T4, too much T3, T4. Okay, too little of thyroid. This is the congenital thyroid problem. Congenital meaning that you have it when you're inside the womb, the baby that inside the womb having this. You have too little thyroid. Very rare in this country. Um, but it's called cretinism. Cretinism is very rare. Uh, Everything become actually short. Your whole body become really short, thick tongue and thick neck. Okay, everything just short, thick tongue, thick neck. You're gonna have little huge belly button as well. Lack of iodine. We don't see that here uh, because we have iodine in our food, but some third world country in like uh, some central part of Central America or even South America countries, some of them still have this. Next one is called the Cushing disease. Cushing does mean too much cortisol. Okay, hyper secretion of your cortisol. Too much cortisol. Too much cortisol. Think of is coming out again is actually Mr. Penguin from Batman. If you look at Mr. Penguin from Batman, pretty much is they have too much cortisol. Big huge belly. Big huge belly. Okay, big huge belly. A little uh, hump. We call it a hump, buffalo hump. Okay, uh, this is a buffalo hump. We call it buffalo hump. This is water pad. It's just actually water. Uh, Moon face. The face is nice and round. Moon face, uh, and they bruise very easily. Okay, they bruise. They have these little lines as well, stretch marks everywhere. Okay. Usually, this condition caused by a tumor inside your brain. You have a tumor in the brain that caused all of this symptom. So, I would highly recommend for you remember the symptoms for your test. Okay. So, moon face, buffalo hump, lots of bruises, big huge belly, tiny little leg. Okay, big huge belly, tiny little leg. You might have seen some of those guys walking around Walmart, especially at night. They usually come out at night and hunt at night. So huge body, girls usually girls, big huge body, tiny little leg, like little chopsticks leg. Okay, so that's Cushing disease. So diabetes mellitus. So this is your diabetes. You have two type, actually more than two now. You have um, you have pregnancy. You have you have the one that during pregnancy that people when you're actually pregnant, you actually your sugar goes up. When you have the pregnancy type, a lot of time those usually goes away. But in some cases, the baby could actually develop type two later on, and also mom could also develop type twos later on as well. Type two diabetes. Uh, there are two main type, but now there are three, which we'll talk about shortly. So type one is called the insulin absent. So your beta cells do not produce any insulin. So no insulin whatsoever. So your beta cells do not produce insulin. So you do need insulin to actually help break down your sugar. Type 2, on the other hand, is the most genetic type. This is the most genetic. This is kind of where you kind of have it run wild and crazy in your family. So this is kind of run within the family. So type 2 is basically you do make insulin, but uh, you don't have the receptor to take those insulin. Okay, so you don't have the receptor, but you do have insulin. So I always compare this into like baseball and mitt situation. So type 1, you don't have the baseball itself. You don't have the insulin, the little baseball to kind of break down the sugar. The type 2, you do have the baseball. You do have in the insulin, but you don't have the mitt to actually catch it. You don't have the mesh to catch it. So once the insulin binds onto to the glucose, it has nowhere to catch onto the mid. So it cannot go into the cell. Okay. Um, so usually type two is curable. Okay. You need to control the amount of sugar you eat. If you could control your diet, it definitely can be cured by food alone. Okay. Um, And now there's a new type called type 1.5. Usually 1.5 is start as a type 2 diabetes, where especially you have type 2 all the way to middle age. And then from type 2, then it turns into type 1, where all of a sudden you don't have the insulin. Okay, that's called type 1.5. You might hear more of that later on, called LADA usually. Um, so if you have question about that, I'll be more than happy to kind of talk more about it because it's not on your test. It's pretty new, fairly new in the last 5-10 years. So we kind of discovered that. But mainly people kind of fall into this two type. Majority people are type two, and this is the most genetic type. This is the one that most Americans actually are dealing with is type two. Type one is rare comparing to type two. Uh, so but keep that in mind. Okay, and that's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching the endocrine chapter. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful week. Take care.